Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, you always hear me saying that when you're sailing during hurricane season, or if your ship is affected by a weather condition or a natural disaster, you kind of don't have the right to sue or get your money back, and you're kind of at the mercy of the cruise lines. But there's some cases out there where a cruise line is now being sued. It's kind of weather related, and I think they may have a case. So this case revolves around Scenic Cruise Lines, and during the year of 2017 there was a huge drought along some of the rivers in Europe. For any of you who've cruised on a river cruise before, you may get to a point where you can't continue and they will put you on a bus and drive you to the next port, and you will jump on another ship. But that involves packing up all your belongings, putting them on a bus, taking them over, unloading them again, getting re-assimilated to the new ship, and it's not the ship you originally booked. But this does happen quite often because the rivers get so low that many cruise ships can't continue. They can't go under the bridges. They're too, there's not enough water, they're going to hit bottom, or there's too much water and they're going to hit the bridges. So that can happen. Now in 2017 they had a huge drought. And it wasn't just for a couple of days, it was for weeks and weeks on end. So what happened on some of these cruises, here's some examples. One couple spent about $14,000 on their cruise. They got to the ship, they were on board. It was a 12-day cruise, and they got to their very first stop and they were told they have to pack up and get onto a bus. They were shuttled to a bus and then brought to another cruise ship, and when they got onto the other cruise ship they were then informed that the sewer system on that cruise ship no longer worked and that they will have to be getting back on another bus. But this time when they got on a bus, they didn't go to another cruise ship. They were ushered to new hotels. Now the hotels they put them at were considered 5-star hotels, but for some hotels in some small towns and some smaller areas, a 5-star hotel is not exactly a 5-star hotel, and that doesn't mean that dining was anywhere near what it normally is on cruise ships. A river cruise ship has their own chefs and they hand make your food pretty much. And you can get it made to order because there's so few passengers on board. However, in a hotel, you're getting hotel food, and in this case, the food just was not great. In fact, out of 12 days on the cruise, they spent only 2 days on a ship. And they spent $14,000 on this cruise. They basically took a bus tour, not a cruise. And there was multiple cases of this happening. And this goes to my point of, well, yes, Don, but it's a drought. That's a weather situation. And again, can the cruise lines be blamed for the weather? Well, the difference between this and, say, a hurricane or a typhoon is that you can see a hurricane and typhoon coming, but you don't know when it's going to hit. It can slow down at any time, it can change directions at any time, and you can try and avoid it for most parts. A drought, you can't. And this drought happened over weeks and weeks and weeks. The water level did not rise one day to the next. So it wasn't traversable one day and not traversable another. So they knew well in advance for some of these cruises that they weren't going to be able to get down these rivers. In that case, if they did not inform the passengers that they cannot complete the cruise, then the cruise company kind of is at fault here. They should have been notified, offered to change their cruise to another time, offered their money back. But of course the cruise lines don't want to do that because we're talking weeks and weeks of cruises. Say you're talking 6 or 7 ships, that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So of course they're not going to do that. Now the cruise lines before, river cruises have been sued for this before, and they've lost. And now there is a lawyer out there who's getting a class action suit together. And it could be anywhere between 400 and 1,200 passengers during this time. And they're all from Australia, from what I can see so far. I believe the lawyer's based in Australia as well. And they want to sue the cruise line because they were given no informed notice, no warnings that this could be happening, no offers to change the cruise. And they said the cruise line knew weeks in advance they would not be able to continue down the river. And then when they, so like for instance on the one where they sent them to another boat, they sent them to a boat that didn't work. And if you're expected to go on a cruise, yet you only spend 2 days out of 12 on a cruise, can that be considered fulfilling the contract of a cruise? And that's where the cruise line probably is going to be in trouble. So it's kind of a unique situation, right? Because river cruises, again, it's the weather that's kind of affecting it. But if your ships can't get down, maybe you need to design ships that can get down with a higher hull, a wider middle, like a flatter bottom. AMO Waterways has a few of those ships that lift higher in the water than most normal river cruises. And they can get down a lot of these rivers even during low tide. So at this point, you can kind of see that the lawsuit does have some teeth and does have some pull. And if this lawsuit is upheld and the cruise line loses, now the first one that they lost, they've appealed, of course, as all things in courts do. And this law thing could take forever. These lawsuits can go on and on and on and on, especially class action suits, because the defendant has a right to interview every single person on the list to complain. And if there's 1,400 to 2,000 people on that list, they can say it takes a long time to do it. And the courts have to give them that time legally because they have to prepare a defense. And that's kind of right. And kind of wrong, if you know what I mean. It just draws things out quite a bit. But in this case, if the cruise lines say knew 2 weeks in advance that this river can't go up unless they hit severe thunderstorms and huge rainfalls, which are not predicted and not in the forecast, they really should have let them know and let passengers know that this is the case and give them the chance to cancel their flights, cancel their hotel rooms, cancel their pre and post hotel rooms, and get their money back for the cruise. And I'd much rather lose, say, $2,000 in my flights and $1,000 worth of hotel rooms than lose 14 to 16 to 20,000. There are couples out there that spent $40,000 on some of these cruises and got $1,000 back from their insurance, because their insurance say that the cruise still continued even though they weren't on a cruise ship. So they had no real recourse and no real action but to sue the cruise line. And so I'm curious, what do you guys think? Do you think that cruise lines are going to have to start becoming more accountable for these things? Do you think if this happens in a river cruise that it may start to happen for ocean cruises? You saw the people on the Norwegian cruise ship that were all upset because they had to change ports because of this reason and that reason, and most of their itinerary was changed. They didn't get to a lot of their stops and they were protesting on the ships and yelling at the crew. And basically at one point there was like a quarter of the members were all in the atrium area shouting demands. But I haven't, they say a quarter, like 500 people, but in reality I bet you a lot of those peoples were, how do you say, looky-loos, people who were just curious what's going on and wanted to see what's happening. And it's like when you're driving by a car accident, you see all those people slow right down to look what's happening. They're not involved in the accident, they're not there for the accident, but they're in the accident area. So I have a feeling that's what a lot of the people on the Norwegian cruise were. I have a feeling there's probably about 25 to 50 people who were really protesting, and then everybody else was just kind of around and maybe joined in if chanting started to happen just because, hey, it's fun, it's funny, look at this. But ocean cruises and river cruises are two distinct, different animals completely. but both can be affected by weather. And if one can be charged because of a weather event, can the other cruise lines? Now here's the thing then, if they win this case saying that they should have been able to predict that this is going to happen, if we see a hurricane coming into the Caribbean and you have a scheduled cruise around that time, should you legally be able to get your money back for that cruise before going because of the possible danger of sailing around a hurricane or the possible changes to your itinerary? That could be a really groundbreaking, precedent-setting lawsuit if that ever comes down. So I'm very curious to see what happens to both these lawsuits. And the courts are always busy with cruise lines. Well, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think they have a leg to stand on? Do you think, hey, weather is weather. Doesn't matter if it's drought. Doesn't matter if it's a hurricane. Let me know in the comments down below. And I hope you appreciate this update. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.